get unstuck in your game design process with these 5.5-ish tips that I use to get unblocked. Yeah. Hey friendos, it's DW here, and today we're talking about how to unblock your game design thinking. So when I'm working on the handshake prototype, there are times where I've hit problems and I did not know how to solve them because the game I'm making, it feels kind of original, at least it feels original to me. It's something that I would want to play. And so in my limited game design and game vocabulary or inventory that I've played, I don't have instant solutions to these problems. And that's the problem with game design, is that's what you're trying to do, is you're solving these game design issues and finding systems and techniques to apply to make the game fun or playable even. So these are some techniques, more 5.5 or 6 techniques that I use to actually unblock myself when it comes down to game design issues. So let's get into it. So number 1 on our list is clearly defining the problem you're trying to solve. That one might sound obvious and you might think you can just glaze over that one. But when you're living and breathing your game as a whole all of the time, and you're thinking about the whole game, sometimes you forget the minimal scope that one problem has. And it's really important to be able to clearly define it. Think of it as an exercise in scope management, making sure you know what you're actually trying to solve down to that very simplistic level of being able to describe it to someone else. So someone who isn't you, someone who isn't thinking about the game design. Because this will not only allow you to really understand the problem you're solving, but if you need to ask for help or look something up, you can start giving people some explanations and examples of what you're trying to solve. I mean, you're stuck anyway, so you might as well think through the problem and really make sure you know what you're trying to solve, rather than thinking you know what you're trying to solve. Yeah, that makes sense. So the second thing I try is actually taking that clearly defined problem that I figured out, that scope, that clear understanding of what it is, and then just removing it from the game altogether. Like straight up deleting it from the design or the prototype or whatever. Depending on where you are in your game design process, that's going to vary. But hear me out. Even if it's just a thought exercise, what you're really trying to understand now is not just the scope of the problem, but the value that problem set or that design issue you're solving actually brings to the gameplay experience. What if you just took it out? Like, what if you just didn't solve it, didn't worry about it? Like, will it actually impact the overall gameplay? Or are you just really wed to this idea and feature inside of your head? It's kind of a harsh conversation to have inside your own mind, but it will save you a lot of time if it doesn't provide a lot of value, or maybe there's a reason why it doesn't make any sense. Maybe your game is already fleshed out enough and this is actually just getting in the way. So yeah, this isn't really finding a solution, but removing something or getting rid of it is a solution to a problem. You just don't have to worry about it, and then you can save yourself that time on working on real problems or polish or other design issues that do contribute a lot of value to the gameplay. So this is something to consider, just deleting it. The third thing I do when I'm blocked is I play, or more realistically, watch video games. My game design is inspired because I love video games. I love the medium, and the medium has been around for a very long time. Video games as a whole, although it's young in the big grand scheme of things, it's been around for a while. There's a lot of other video games out there, which means there's a lot of other people that have worked on game design problems in the past. Key thing here is to really understand that game design problem you're trying to solve, which brings us back to number 1. That's why I recommend taking that time. So now I really know what I'm trying to solve, and I can find other games on the internet or through recommendations through friends or colleagues or whatever that will actually show me how to solve something similar, if not the actual problem I'm trying to solve in their game. And then I can relate their systems to mine and maybe kind of come up with my own solutions. A really good way to get myself unblocked. And again, like I said, I don't necessarily play everything because, first of all, it's a lot of money, but second of all, I don't have that kind of time. But thanks to like YouTube and Twitch and Mixer and all that jazz, we've got about 8 trillion hours of every single game ever made, or somewhere along those lines. But it lets me put something on in the background and watch a Let's Play. And it recently helped me unblock myself on the handshake prototype by seeing a game called Wall Street Kid recommended by my buddy Darcy. So that saved the day. Didn't even know that game existed on the NES, but now I do, and it really got my creative juices flowing and solved a lot of problems I was having, or I solved one big problem I was having with the idea of player progression. So that's awesome. Number 4, learn from the experts. Now, if you don't have easily accessible game design or game developers in your area, which, like me, I don't, nor do I have that wide network to get those kind of contacts, the GDC shares content on YouTube for free, along with a lot of other game developers and designers, all on YouTube and Twitch. They're either live streaming or they're sharing video content, and there's tons of it on YouTube. I spend a lot of time watching it. But a lot of my time sits around GDC talks. The GDC Vault, they release a video every once in a while, I think it's every other day, and they cover a wide range of topics, all the way from low-level coding to marketing through up to narrative design. And more recently, I used this exact process to get unblocked on my handshake prototype by watching a talk by Mike Bithell about level design in conversation in Subsurface Circular. It's not the right title, but links in the description. That talk helped unblock me, kind of helped me narrow my path and make sure I knew that my game design was valid. And even though I was hitting a bunch of snags around how to design these dialogue conversations that are a key part of the gameplay, he made a whole game about it. He shared that information, and that's his job. He is a full-time professional game developer, which makes a huge difference for someone like me who's doing it to get started. So learning from experts is critical, and YouTube and the GDC make that possible. So definitely go check that out and find the solution to or find people that have tried to solve something similar to your problem there. Number 5 on my list is to brainstorm again. At this point, you've clearly defined your problem. You've decided you probably can't delete it from your solution because that's number 2. You played some games or watched some games that provided some inspiration, learned from some experts through different resources like the GDC Vault on YouTube, and now you've got to try solving the problem again. Now, before you get into the depth of the problem again, I brainstorm ideas and really think about what will fill that box. And I throw a lot of ideas out there, and I kind of just throw them out onto a page or a whiteboard, or a lot of the time I'm in my car doing my commute, and I talk my way through those problems, and I actually talk to myself in the car all the way to work. By the time I get to work, I write them down on my phone, and these are these ideas that I want to try, whether it's a thought exercise or actual prototyping or whatever. But the key thing here is to come back at it and realize that you don't have a solution, so you're going to want to go through a bunch of them. And then over time, you'll whittle that down, because as you analyze each one more and more and get deeper into that analysis, you're going to see that a bunch of them don't quite fit, or they make the problem worse or better, or shift the problem to another area of the game. So you sort of break those things down a little bit further. But the key thing is brainstorming and having tons of ideas to sift through yourself. Then, reflect, come back to them and whittle it down. Reflect, come back, whittle it down, until you have 1 or 2 that you really want to prototype and get going, and then take it from there. So last but not least, try it again. This is kind of a gimme because that brainstorming section is kind of a bit of a pep talk, but it's legit. You need to try the game design problem again, even if it's not today or tomorrow or in a month. Put the game on the shelf if you have to, but go back to it and revisit it. It will prove to be fruitful, even if it's just for your creative process or just for practicing's sake. It is really important you try to solve these problems again, because as you do more of them, you'll get better, and then maybe the next game, you'll just have that idea solved, or you'll have an idea of how to solve it already because you solved it in a previous design that maybe you didn't finish the game completely, but the design is probably already fleshed out because you spent some time working on it. So make sure you always go back and give it another shot. And so that about wraps it up. So those are 5.5 or 6 ideas that help get you creatively unblocked for your game design problem, and I hope it helped you. They've definitely helped me, and this is my process, and that's kind of why I do the YouTube channel, just to kind of share my noob, silly ideas that may or may not apply to you. But I hope they were helpful to you or inspired you to come back to your problem and actually take another stab at it. So if you have any feedback or you have some of your own processes, leave them in the comments section below, like I said before, and that'd be great. If you could have yourselves a great day and or evening, and take care of yourself.